Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. And indeed, I should also greet you because you're at home, you're lucky. It's a Monday, but it is what it is. It's also a public holiday. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm my guest this morning, who also, he also is in that same situation. He's Seyi Adetayo. He's a security and intelligence expert. Thank you very much for coming on, breaking into your holiday. But then people like you, people like us, people like fire service, people like Olokpa, there is no such thing as holiday.
Public holiday.
So, well, it was last week that it was very much in the news, the final release of the terrorist abduction of train travelers. In a sense, yeah, the government has got kudos. We were hearing about kinetic and non-kinetic methods. They were telling us that we saw in the news that the authorities, because it wasn't just one formation, they employed what they call the non-kinetic methods, and here we are. We have our joy. After being in captivity for 6 months, or being in the hands of the abductors for 6 months, they finally were released. And there's been a lot of praise and kudos to the government. But there will be matters arising from all of this. So, first of all, before we even go, just quickly tell me, what is that kinetic and non-kinetic business?
Okay, I think it's from the scientific explanation. When you talk about kinetic energy, is when you try to, when particles, can distort and they heat. So when you say it's bringing it to military,
yes,
that is involving lots of military activities, military operations, actions, using of
that would
weapons.
Be kinetic.
That is kinetic.
But they say they used
the
non-kinetic.
That means the non-warfare approach
okay,
into issues, because it's not all the time that the military have to use gun to solve issues. There are times when they have to approach people or use psychological hubs to get what they want. So, and then situation like this, because we are fighting our own people, we are not fighting foreigners. It's not between Nigeria and another country. It's between Nigerian government and some Nigerians that are recalcitrant. So you can't just go all out, to fight them if you are having opportunity to actually use other approach to get same results.
We'll get to it, but perhaps from what you've just explained, part of the non-kinetic might be the attitude of nothing is off the table, right? I wonder if you agree with that nothing is off the table. We shall explore all sorts of means, subject to the limitations that you've just said. But the government was really, really anxious to get back those people who have been abducted. So I was just wondering what methods would be used. But let's talk more about it when we come back from this package that went out earlier to sort of refresh our memory about it.
The passing out parade is the climax of this cadet's 5-year academic. The passing out parade is the climax of this cadet's 5-year academic and military training at the NDA in Kaduna. The arrival of President Muhammadu Buhari, who is a special guest of honor, signals the beginning of the occasion. He is reviewing passing out cadets for the last time in his capacity as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria. The cadets of 69 regular corps are the first set in the history of the academy to be trained with a curriculum that includes counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency operations. This was aimed at addressing the existential and asymmetry threats facing the country. The president noted that terrorists and insurgents are out to destroy the reforms brought by his administration. But he charged service chiefs and other armed forces personnel to replicate the success recorded in the Northeast in other parts of the country. He also expressed delight at the release of 23 remaining kidnapped train passengers after 7 months in captivity.
This came for our country, for the remaining 23 victims of the March 28 Abuja-Kaduna train attack were released by the heinous terrorists. In this regard, I have instructed the service chiefs to replicate the successes in the Northeast in other parts of the country.
The president went on to highlight the achievements recorded by his administration within the last 7 years, before reassuring Nigerians of his commitment to ensure a free and fair election in 2023.
In 2015, we inherited a country at crossroads, with bombs going off, whose frightening frequency. I am utterly committed to ensuring that the forthcoming elections are peaceful and transparent.
Next was the march past in quick and slow time. The cadets were also reminded of the challenging state of the nation's security and tasked to rise in our defense.
These cadets are joining the armed forces at a time where their knowledge and skill will be put to test by prevailing security situations. They have been assured of the president's support and charged to protect the nation with utmost commitment. Lupe Assam, TVC News, Kaduna.
The 3 remaining AK-9 trained passengers. The passing out parade is the climax of this cadets' 5-year academic and military training. AK-9 trained passengers held hostage by terrorists have regained their freedom more than 6 months after their kidnap. The secretary of the chief.
Okay, well, that was the first of 2 reports that we have actually, and then we have this other one by Lupa Assam on the train victims themselves.
It's freedom at last for the remaining 23 kidnapped victims after being held for 191 days by their captors. March the 28th would remain indelible in their minds, just as the nation would not forget the terror attack on the Kaduna-bound train that immediately resulted in the death of 8 persons and the shutting down of the train services. The terrorists had demanded the release of their loved ones and colleagues who were in custody of the government in exchange for the victims in their captivity. It emerged that as soon as the terrorists confirmed the freedom of 30 of their colleagues from prison, they reneged on the swap agreements reached with the government and began releasing the kidnapped victims in batches after payment of ransom, a situation that angered the government. Tukur Mamu, a newspaper publisher, soon assumed the role of a private negotiator securing the release of some of the captives. But the hostage negotiator was intercepted by operatives of Interpol in Cairo on September the 6th while on his way to Saudi Arabia for Lesser Hajj. He was returned to Nigeria, where the Department of State Services took him into custody. His home and office were raided, and the service said it got good evidence following the operation. Barely a month after, the Chief of Defense Staff Action Committee secured the release of the remaining 23 victims. The statement says, quote, "The nation owes a debt of gratitude to the Nigerian military under the leadership of the CDS, who conceived and guided the operation from start to finish. All sister security agencies and the Federal Ministry of Transportation contributed immensely to this operation." End of quote. The military authorities will on Thursday give an update on operations in the last 2 weeks.
Okay then, so back to a studio now with Mr. Seyi Adetayo. So it was quite a happy day. The public was full of praise for the president and for the military for pulling off this feat. It took as long as it did, no doubt, because they were intricate operations, let me just put it like that. But what can we take from this going forward? Because one has to be very careful here. As you know, social media will run riot. We have all sorts of commentators, specialists, experts who are, second guessing how this was achieved. Some of them are saying that this could not have been achieved without the Nigerian side bowing a bit. Well, give me your impressions on this whole operation.
Okay, to start with, you see, we have lots of people who have become professionals overnight. They are now intelligence experts. Some of them just maybe did courses in intelligence, and that made them to be intelligence experts. You can never be an intelligence expert if you have not actually done it as a job. A lot. It's a business. It's a profession. Yes, it's a trade craft. Okay. You don't go for a course and become an intelligence expert. And because that will not enable you to understand why certain decisions are being made.
Okay.
Like I always say, intelligence is not 1 + 1 = 2. It's about what is the objective of what you want to do. And your objective can shift depending on the forces around that. And from time to time, as the objective is changing, when I'm talking about budget, I'm talking about national objective, because intelligence, national intelligence has to do with objective of the country as a nation. So a government of a country can decide to negotiate if that is the objective, based on what they have at hand.
Okay.
They might choose not to negotiate because of what they are seeing that you are not seeing. So there are preponderance of intelligence and information at their disposal that is not readily available in the news media. And they consider this while they are taking action. Remember that some people were arrested. And then suddenly we saw that North Kinetic achieved this. Could it be that because of the existence of those people in the middle of the incident is the reason why they're actually taking this so long? Because some people are benefiting from the whole system. You see,
that's one theory.
Yes, people are not seeing
I'm talking
a possibility.
Now or theory.
No, I'm talking of a possibility.
Okay.
So people may not see or may not have, but it came as a surprise when we learned that someone was arrested in Egypt and flown to Nigeria. And then it became obvious that, there's more to what is happening. And there's another thing that I've said in the past that I want us to understand. When we begin to compare America's operation with Nigeria's operation, they are two different things. American can come and rescue one abductee because it is one person. Operationally, it is not practicable anywhere in the world where you have large people being abducted and you want to use military operation to rescue them. You are going to incur fatalities on the part of the victims. And I don't see any president who will want to have that on his own head, as in to give account. That's the reason why Jonathan's government could not carry out that military operation, because it was also an option on the table. And we have 300 children involved. They will use those children as cannon fodder. They will use, they will themselves can kill. Remember, even when the British government, using its boat squad, tried to rescue the British and European engineers in Sokoto that were abducted by the Ansari group, then they did not succeed. They saw them coming and they killed all those people before they got there. And we're talking about elite squad, operation supervised, sanctioned by the British government. So that is to say that it's not because you are American or you are British. The dynamics, they are the same all over the world. When you're having large numbers of abductees, you need to measure your approach. And I think government has been able to do something. It might not be the best of action so far, but at the end of the day, we've seen the light at the end of this tunnel. But that is not to say that there won't be consequences.
Okay.
Definitely there will be consequences for us as a nation. When we have a situation whereby families were forced to actually use their own approach to secure the rights of their family members, and money was involved, definitely the bank accounts or the purse of the terrorists has been, increased with lots of money that they can use for armament, for training, for expanding their mission. And because the objective is to destabilize this country, this money will still be used for this. So I believe also that governments, on the other hand, they are working around the clock to ensure that the effect of the money paid to these people, the effect is minimized to the BRS minimum.
Okay. And thank you very much for this explanation, because I'm happy you even went there. That we often see Western nations as heroes of their nationals, and we have seen occasions where America, for example, not that I'm concentrating on America, will go into a place and bring out someone of their national, and it seems made for heroism and all of that. But as you've just explained, it's easy to do that when you have just one person, for example, in a known location that you, Reke has told you.
And another reason why they could do that is that if they are in the hands of people that they know that wants to kill them, if an American is in hand of Boko Haram. They know they are not going to negotiate. Even if they negotiate, it's not going to come. So they know they are going to kill these people. They must say, okay, let us go there and release. Let us see if we can actually release some of them and bring them back alive.
Oh, okay.
You know that if you don't act, they are going to die.
Okay.
So you might be forced to. But the people who kidnap these girls, the signals then didn't show that they kidnapped them because they wanted to kill them.
Okay. That is in the case of the abduction of all the schoolgirls.
Chibok girls, Dapchi girls.
And even with this train incident, the mixed people that, it stands to reason very much, really, what you say, because even the bad guys, they are not as stupid as to put all of their captives in one location.
Yeah, exactly.
So this really just sort of clarifies what you were saying, that these are things that might not be well known to the public that our government and its specialists are contending with. But as you said, there are those who have been noticing that, look, a series of events have happened, and okay, something you said in there. You said that, what was the idea that you muted? That, look, government has decided that it will not negotiate with terrorists. But you said, however, it can be a very dynamic situation. And because there will be a main objective, everything will be knocked against that to see how we can go. So I guess I'm setting up to ask you the question. Do you think money exchanged hands in this particular operation?
There's a possibility. You see, America will say we don't negotiate with terrorists, but there are still back channel negotiation.
Okay.
All
governments do that.
Exactly. So what American government will not do is to come out and negotiate as a government. They will use the back channel to negotiate. We've seen, big multinational Fortune 500 companies in the U.S. that their staffs were kidnapped in South America and other places, and then they use a back channel to negotiate the release of their people.
Okay.
So we shouldn't be fooled with what we read or see in movies. The reality is there.
Yeah.
They will negotiate when they see the need to negotiate. And most often, they negotiate. But one thing they do is that they will come back and make them to pay.
Yeah, okay. The authorities will come back.
Yeah, they'll come back and make them to pay. But they will first of all want to
the primary purpose is to secure the lives
of their people,
those that have been abducted. I suppose the other thing that's sort of commonsensical is that one would hope that the terrorists have been left in a weaker state than they were before. But maybe that might just be a pipe dream, because government's concern at the moment was rescue our citizens it was a mix. There were elderly people in there, middle-aged people, I think even a couple of minors. And we've seen the successful, operation being, hailed by all sorts of organizations, including the Christian Association of Nigeria. Everybody is happy, but subject to what you said, some people had to go and try their own means because of what you've just explained. Governments announced intention that we don't do those kind of deals. But now, those that were not done and that they have been released now, I don't know what you think about that. Do you think government is under any confidential obligation to make good those who sort of sorted themselves out?
You see, we're under a democratic rule, and the government are under obligation to protect every citizen. And they have to go all the way out. See, if you're under military operations, military government, they may not have that moral burden to be pressured by the citizens to get the abductees home the way we wanted. Exactly. They can decide to just go there and attack and bring back those who are alive, and they are not under any moral burden. But a democratic government will also think about what are their promises to the people. Election is also coming. How will the people see them when they are all concerned about their own reputation without considering the need for them to actually secure, the release of those that are abducted. So we see pressures coming from here and there. So government is obligated to to check his decision and say, okay, which one will be the best approach in this particular situation. And whatever government does, especially if it is carried out by certain agencies of the government, they are classified. Okay. Now, it depends on to what extent level of classification will government place on it, and when they intend to declassify. At a point in time, all these things will be declassified and will become something that intelligence officers will use in their training, police officers will use in their training, and institute like National Institute of Security Studies in Abuja, NIPS, and the rest, they will use for training.
But after a period of time.
Exactly.
Maybe around 10 years or even more.
It depends. It depends it depends on the government when they will decide that, okay, maybe we are now out of the woods, so we can actually talk more about this, so that our children that are growing up will understand why we did what we did then, and so that what they need to do to prevent finding themselves in similar situations in the future, because we need to begin to learn from the past.
That's the import of my question, of hoping that these guys are not as strong as they were when they pulled this stunt, and government has sort of rectified
Government has done a lot. See, the Benin Gwari area was totally an area that is not under government control. It's a nation. It was a nation on its own under the control of these terrorists until recent, when the chief of defense staff led the troops into. When I mean led the troops, I don't mean going there physically, but he's in charge of the air components, the ground components, and they led the forces there with the police and other agencies, and they cleared that area. That is not to say that we don't have the elements, those elements there. They are there, but the kind of control they were wielding in those areas is no longer the way it used to be, but they are still there, and they are still very much active. At least in the last 1 week, there have been some attacks that were carried out in that area, and all the way into Zamfara, into Sokoto, is still not Uhuru yet for us there. But this will take a while. But if we continue to do what we're doing and increase the tempo, we will get there, definitely.
The president sees the opportunity of meeting with the now freed citizens that to say again that unprecedented amounts had been spent on the army. Now, we've just heard that negotiation is what really got us, out of the woods here. But he did seize the opportunity to say that, look, I think he was even implying, if he didn't state exactly, that no administration has spent as much on developing the military as and the armed forces as this particular administration
That's a fact.
And then he charged soldiers to see what they could do about replicating this success, the success of this in other areas, maybe, of course, northwest, northeast. That's where the trouble really is.
I also need to point this. When a terrorist is having your people in their custody, they are in control, they have advantage. And the only way you can turn the table around is to make the area uncomfortable, change the dynamics of things, such that they will now be willing to, people who are not willing before, that are giving you some conditions that were difficult for you. But if you make the environment uncomfortable for them, they may now become, willing to negotiate. So it wasn't just about, let us talk. Military actions were involved, but not directly towards, bringing those, directly rescuing those girls, but making the environment, turning the environment around such that the terrorists will also consider the fact that if they don't close this on time, they might lose it all. Remember that at a point, some of these commanders of bandits like Torji and the rest started shouting and begging, say he's willing to negotiate. That, but you people promised me that you will not attack me. At a point, he started helping to arrest some other bandits, helping government, because government turned the heat on them within that particular axis. So that code have also aided, this quick closure of this within the period when that committee was set up and the time that we achieved this result. So many things went into this. So it's not just about, okay, let's sit on the table and talk. So many things were involved.
I can imagine, as a matter of fact, especially in the light of your explanation. And it sort of calls to mind the fact that, look, when maybe this is the amateur, non-professional way of looking at it, but when we are really ready to do business, Nigeria as a corporate entity, there's very little that can stop us. When we have determined where there's a will, there's a way. It looks like the will was got here. I'm not saying there wasn't been will elsewhere, but sustaining this, if this could be done, it's very encouraging to a lot of Nigerians that more like it can be done. The zero tolerance for terrorism, for Boko Haram, even without prejudice to what you've explained, that, look, we still have to be careful about it, kinetic, non-kinetic. But if there is a zero tolerance, do you think we could move towards that? Because as you've even just indicated yourself, government has also said that the facilities available to them have been very largely brought down. Say it's not the same. Alhaji Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information, he's been saying this for quite a while. But of course, in the absence of what they think of as stop all of this, let us not hear any incident anywhere again, people say it's not so.
That can be possible. We've seen armed robbers being killed, and we'll still see new robbery incidents every day. Criminals will always be criminals. Those who want to perpetrate crime will go ahead and do it. What the country needs to do is to ensure that we create a situation where it will be difficult for you to do it, and even when you do it, we will catch you.
That assurance has to be on ground.
Yes, and we have to put that, because those who want to commit crime will be motivated to commit crime. Some of it is as a result of mental illness. All sorts of causes. All sorts of reasons, and some are motivated by, economic reasons and the rest. Now, there's something I want.
Please hold that thing so that you can tell us as soon as we come back. I've got to go on a break now. Please hold the thought in mind. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. We'll also include your calls when we come back. Okay, welcome back. Seyi Adetayo in our studio here, security and intelligence expert, and we're looking at the aftermath of the rescue of, or shall we say, the release of the last 23 abductees of the Kaduna Abuja train port. Now, I interrupted your thoughts. Just
okay, yeah, I wanted to add that one of the major problems we have in the past is lack of common purpose or objective. And I think I've stated that here in the past, where we have a governor in one state negotiating, another governor not negotiating. So the purpose weren't aligned. And then they found, you see, the terrorists finding solace in a particular state because the government there is amenable to them, is trying to negotiate with them, to even involve them, and the other state is saying no way, and they'll be using the boundary of that state to attack the other state. And I said it then that we need to have a national policy on this. And I expected that the NSA should champion that, in which no state can go outside what the nation have decided that this is our policy on how we want to address terrorism. I think that was eventually done. And I've seen now that, the state government are now speaking with one voice now. And that is good for us, where, it shows that you cannot use this person to play on this. And that committee that was set up, I think it was a very good move. It helps us to be able to align our objectives in terms of this is what we want to achieve. And in achieving this, the decision is going to be taken, and then there's not going to be another decision outside what that committee has arrived at. And that is what we're seeing that is working in that area. And if you can sustain this, I believe that we'll achieve results in no...
Because everybody is on the same page. But you said something very important at the very top of the program, very shortly after we are taking off, about the person who was arrested in Egypt and brought back to the country and probably is now how do they phrase it quite quaintly, helping the authorities with the investigation right now. When you look at that, you begin to look at, do we really know what we are in? Because that arrest shocked everybody, even in the intelligence community, and it takes a bit to shock you guys because you usually can figure out all the angles. You know that even if nobody has said that has happened, this could happen. But when we heard that a Nigerian who purportedly was helping had been brought in, had been arrested in Egypt, give me the thinking that, at least from the point of view of a security expert, what all of that said.
You see, insecurity anywhere in the world is a business for some people. It's not just Nigeria. There are people who benefit from crisis. You know, we have NGOs and we have NGOs. There are real NGOs whose intention is to come and help. There are NGOs whose intention is to come and benefit at the detriment of the people. And there are those whose business is to work with NGOs in crisis area. That is how they earn their own money. And there are workers that are working with them. The moment the crisis in that area ends, those workers will not have money anymore. So those workers don't expect that the crisis will end. Look at Borno State, for example. How much was house rent? How much was a building going for before the crisis? Now, owning a house or a building in Borno State is a big investment, because NGO will just come and then pay you 10 years lease of your property. And you know, the landlords were catching in. You think those such landlords want the crisis to end? They don't want the crisis to end. So now every responsible government or intelligence agencies, their responsibility is to look at those whose intention or motive for coming into this country is inimical to our objective. And they have been doing that. And that's why people need to be very careful what you're doing around, because they are watching. And they didn't just, walk up to the guy and storm the guy. They've been watching, they've been collecting enough information over time, and until they got to a period when they believe that, because at times, you know, some people are saying, why are they waiting? No, at times you may want to wait. You want to see who are those people that are in alignment with this guy? Who are those who are working with him? Could there be people who are actually sponsoring him, or people like... So you actually need to unveil the masquerade, the real masquerade behind, you know, the cloak, for you to be able to, you know, get the right result. And when you'll be able to achieve, well, that's why I said intelligence is about objective. It's about what you want to achieve at a particular point in time. You might say, okay, with this we are okay, you go straight and arrest. And at times, you might allow a criminal to continue to perpetrate crime for 2, 3, or 5 months. Even some people might become victims, but because you want to achieve something beyond him. You believe that it's not working alone. There are some people that are being masked, and you want to wait for him to lead you to those people before you act. So it's not something that some people will just come on here and start saying that we are experts, we don't. No, you don't know. Except you are in there, you are working with them, or you've been with them, understand how they work. You don't understand the reason why they are doing certain things at certain times. So that speaks to why, you know, it took a while for the guy to be arrested, and for them to arrest him. They know the reason why they arrested him at that particular point in time. And I'm very sure that even arresting him is not to confirm what they've already known.
Okay.
I can assure you that.
Okay.
It's not to confirm what they've already known. It will be for certain reasons, some of which
will be confidential.
You know, of course, it's not.
You know,
it's not a forum where yeah, exactly.
Out. So exactly, people need to know that there are these intricacies to it. In case people are wondering, say, why is it? Because a lot of us, maybe because we've been so traumatized, are thinking that it's an open and shut kind of a case. When government is ready, it will do it. But you just explained that it also does take investigations. And as you were saying it, it occurred to me that, yep, you hear of these, kind of operations in different countries in the West, where they'll say one particular security organization or FBI or something like that has been tailing a person for 2-3 years, just so that they can actually be useful in court. Yeah. They can have a whole body of virtually incontrovertible evidence. Yeah. So there's also that to it. 23 people have been released. It's a delight to our people, no doubt, but we still have a lot more work to be done. And we're going to just be working away at it, right? This is an advantage. Advantage Nigeria. We probably want to keep that up. You heard all the speculation. You read all the. I'm sure you would have seen all of the speculations, because sometimes social media, we know that there's a lot of junk on there. But at the same time, you can't always look away just to know what kind of. There will be a lot of idiocy, but there will also be some things. Now, one of the things that I saw on there that I don't quite know how to put the context in which to put it is. Take the time when they stormed the correctional center and released people. There are people who are now making a narrative and an analysis and editorial that they got everything that they wanted, that it was their style, it was agreed, it was with government's complicity that they stormed that place, released all those people. So this was part of the payment for this. That whole idea, I'm not even asking you to confirm it or anything like that, but you see these kind of narratives going on, because the government, unfortunately, is not that well trusted by people.
Well, I think that has to do a lot with how we communicate. And it didn't just start now. And I've said this before. We don't communicate the right way yet. There are times when we really need to really manage the expectation of the people. We need to come out clean and let the people know. But the situation whereby we'll keep promising people we'll solve this in 3 months, we'll solve this, which has been what we're doing since 2011, saying we'll solve this in. No country has ever resolved problem like this in 5 years. It takes so long. And the earlier you realize how difficult this would be, and then you communicate to the people, the earlier you begin to onboard people into your programs, they'll begin to appreciate the enormity of the problem and then begin not to expect too much, even though they are still going to, keep you to task and then expect you to deliver. But when you manage your expectation, I say, come, this is going to be with us for the next 10, 15 years. But these are the plans that we're having, short-term, medium-term, and long-term plan to solve this problem. The people will now be looking at, 5 years, 10 years solution. Not that when you say we're going to clear these people in 3 months, and after 6 months, they're saying something bigger, saying they're becoming more emboldened. They'll begin to lose confidence in your ability to resolve the problem. And not that because you cannot resolve the problem, but because the communication was not properly disseminated to the people and their expectations managed.
But why now? Because there are experts within the military as well who know these things.
The military don't talk to the people. It's not for the military. You see, we're in a democratic role being handled by a politician. And each politician, they have their own objectives. So, and politicians, for who politicians are, they will at times want to play to the gallery. Some want to say things because they want to please their principals and the rest. And you see all sorts of information flying around. Left to the military, I know if the military are in a position to actually engage the people directly, they will have been able to manage the people's expectation ab initio.
Yeah, but that's not done.
We are not in military rule, we're in democratic rule. Exactly. So, and they must be submissible. They must submit to the democratic institutions on ground and take order and then allow the politicians to play the politics where they do the work of the military.
So, yeah, the military must subordinate itself to the democratic dispensation and regime. And that's why you have the ceremonial title. But it's not ceremonial alone. It's actually very active of commander-in-chief. It just so happens that we have a retired general in that position now. But he could be a lawyer. He could be an architect. He could be a teacher. He would still be commander-in-chief to, sort of illustrate the principle that you're making, that, look, the military don't engage, with the public one-on-one. That's left to the politicians, and whatever the politicians are going to make.
It's not their responsibility.
It isn't. That is not their responsibility. That brings me to another aspect of this security conversation, where people have said that, look, if only the president, the commander-in-chief, would give the order, we, Nigeria, we have the wherewithal. We have a force, well-trained, as the president has said, well-funded, well, provisioned, to be able to do the job. But it now remains, shall we say, that word from above.
You see, I've had the opportunity of working with a president before.
Okay.
I've had the opportunity of working in presidential villa with a president, a very strong president that has someone that we know that has the will to take decisions. And I've seen how a whole lot of things, play around. It takes a lot for decisions to be taken at that level. And it also has to do with the amount of information. A president is more or less like somebody that is in the house. And you want to know what is happening in the town. You rely on people that you've put in the city for them to bring to you what is happening. So it's about what is the quality of information being brought to the president. And those who are with the president to decide or to advise him on the course of action in a way that their own personal interest will not, be...
People are still having personal interest. You would have, but it is what it is. I mean, you're just telling it like it is. There will, in as long as you're a human being, and you had illustrated, not that I'm in any way suggesting that there's anybody in the presidency that's like that, but the person who is benefiting from a state of unrest is not going to be most enthusiastic about wiping it out.
Exactly. Do you know that if all should end in Borno State now, a whole lot of people in thousands will be jobless?
Simply,
thousands, tens of thousands. You see, there are people who are cooking
food.
That
is if we clean up.
They are cooking food. They are running catering services to support the NGOs. There are those who are providing materials for them. There are those who are running procurement, supplies. It's a big economy over there. And if the crisis should end, all those people will stop surviving.
So even those people...
And it's not just Maduguri, also in the Northwest now as we speak now. Some people are benefiting from providing relief materials. We have IDP camps. They are being run. The things they are eating, it's not falling from heaven. Some people are responsible for supplying in the procurement, doing the supplies, bringing the cows. It's a big market and big economy for them. If it ends like that, those people, so you think those people are willing that these things ends? It's a whole big issue, and government has to be very careful in how it is being approached. And that's why we see that at times that some things will happen and we could not really explain why these actions. One thing is that government should just do enough to continue to earn the trust of the people so that we can believe that, okay, whatever you are doing it in our interest. And for whoever that they found that is working against the interest of the nation should not just be dealt with quietly. They should be exposed. By so doing, people will see that, yes, government is actually dealing with this issue along and they mean business. And you start beginning to see people volunteering information as to, trust me, there are a lot of people that even, those who are holding political offices that are, I don't mean elected offices, I mean probably appointees that are actually one of the major problems that we are having, talking about it. We've seen in some states where emirs were being, dethroned, and the traditional rulers are being removed. Some government officials, appointees of state governments are being arrested because of their involvement with this thing. So a lot of people are using their position to fester this crisis because they are benefiting from it.
And it's also, maybe it's a coincidence, but elections are coming up in February. That's not an eternity away. And if we had this kind of a situation still unsolved, it would have given a certain coloration, perhaps. But that it has also been addressed, successfully resolved, it's a happy coincidence, wouldn't you say?
We've done it before. 2014, we did it. 2014, 2015, we did it. We were able to roll back this terror group, terrorism, and the election took place. Though later, we started seeing them, expanding again, and we did it to an extent in 2019, and I've seen the kinetics now, back to where we started from now. In Beningwari axis and
Yes.
many other axes. And we've seen what is also happening in the southeast. We've seen Anambra State governor working with the security agencies, rolling back these terrorist activities in Anambra State. Though yesterday we recorded an attack on the police in Iyini, also in Enugu State, where a police station was set ablaze and 2 policemen was killed. And I'm sure that the CP is not going to leave any stone unturned in ensuring that the perpetrators were arrested. I've seen the police under this current IG. I've actually seen them doing a lot in terms of, yes, you attack police, but sooner or later we see them being arrested. So it means that they actually mean business. And that's how it is, in America. You don't kill a policeman.
No.
The whole resources in the police department will be moved out to fish out those who kill those policemen.
And Nigeria will arrive one day.
No, I think we're seeing it now.
Approaching that goal.
We're seeing that now.
Because the worst thing any criminal could do would be to kill a policeman. At that stage, all bets are off because the criminals know that this town is going to be too hot for any meaningful operation. You're persuaded that we are fast approaching that area?
We are fast approaching that. You see, it started with police, first of all, this IG dealing with his own men that are abusing the civil populace. And also, you see him now dealing with civilians that are also abusing the police. And I love that. He's balancing it. While I will not allow my men to abuse you, I will not allow you to touch my men.
No, you can't.
And he's speaking it loud and clear.
Yes. I don't know how Nigeria even got to that area because it should even go without saying from around the world. But we are just sometimes, I'm not too proud to say
To be honest and sincerely speaking, this is my own personal opinion. The last time I've seen this in the Nigerian police was during the time of Arase.
Okay.
IG Arase. That's the last time I saw, police this vibrant and this, determined and business-like. And I'm happy that we're actually getting to that. I hope that before he leaves, it will take us far beyond this level.
Indeed. So now that this has been done, we didn't have a chance to talk about it until now. I suppose the challenge is to now keep this, keep it up because the train, for instance, the train service that was disrupted, it's going to be in everyone's interest for service to be back up again. Yes, it happened. After all, the World Trade Center was brought down. They brought it down to ground zero. They built it, and people can go there and see that it is a thriving, living.
The first thing America did was to root out the terror cells. There is another Yoruba that says that if the rope is not settled, the bird perching on it can never be settled. That axis is not settled yet.
Okay.
Bringing the train operation now is calling for another disaster. Until that axis becomes settled, and it will take a while. So whatever they're doing now, they should continue to do it. And let more of intelligence operations be going on in that axis, root out the people from there, and at least drive them far away from that axis. Then, the train service can.
So that's the way to go in that regard, in your opinion.
That's my own advice.
Well, I just like to thank you for coming on, Seyi. It's been we've been really wanting to have this conversation, but one thing or the other. But here we've had it, and we know that there's reason to hope. You've explained so many things that perhaps the ordinary non-professional might not be aware of. But if there are people who don't take all of their news on security from social media, I imagine there are those that will also be aware of some of the things that you said. Yeah. Thank you very much, as always.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your coming. Okay, so that's our program today then. Please join us tomorrow. There won't be a holiday for you tomorrow. Tomorrow is work, so we'll meet each other here tomorrow at 11 a.m., God willing. My name is Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.